What's going on, fellas? I've got here a 2008 Chevy Impala, and I'm going to use this car to point out to you the location of the AC compressor clutch relay, the AC fuse, and some other important fuses for the air conditioning to work. So let's head under the hood. I'm also going to give you some troubleshooting steps. So let's pop open this fuse box cover. We do that by lifting on the tab on either side. And we can see here all the fuses and relays. There are two fuses that send power to the actual HVAC control unit. That's the piece that has all the buttons and the knobs and the dials that you actually use to turn the AC on and off. So there's this 10 amp fuse right here and this 10 amp fuse right here. So if these are blown, then that control unit will not be able to work. So check those first. Now moving on to the air conditioning. When the engine is running and your AC is turned on, if you look at the front of the compressor here, it should be rotating. That means that the compressor is engaged, and that's where the cooling action of the AC comes from, is from that compressor putting in work. Now, if that compressor, if the front of it is engaged and rotating, then we know that the AC relay and the fuse and all that is good. And we may need to look elsewhere. If the cooling fans aren't working, for example, or if the system is undercharged or overcharged, you'll have to look into that. But if you don't see the front of that compressor rotating, then we need to start looking into these fuses and relays. Here is your AC relay. And when this relay engages, it sends power for the compressor to engage through this 10 amp fuse right here. There's another fuse that's necessary for the AC relay to even work, and that is going to be the emissions 2 fuse, which is right here. Now, my favorite way to troubleshoot the relay is I'll tap on the relay. You can give it a good little whack there when the car's on with the AC on. I'll also grab the relay and wiggle it. And what that does, you know, sometimes relays get stuck, and by tapping on it or wiggling the relay, you can get it to unstick. So if after you tap on that, if you hear or see your AC compressor engage, then you know that this relay might be failing. Further troubleshooting beyond that, you know, do you see the exposed metal present at that fuse? So we're looking at our 10 amp AC fuse. You can provide your own power into that fuse, and that should result in the AC compressor engaging. You can also, if you remove the relay, you can connect these two pins together and it does the same thing. It will send power directly to your AC compressor and it will cause it to engage, assuming that your AC compressor is good and that the wiring is good. You can also, you know, with the relay removed, I can set it aside. I can swap in a different relay. So I can swap in a fan relay here. And if after making the switch, if my AC compressor starts to engage, then I know that my original relay is probably no good. Now, this relay is computer controlled, and there are a few reasons why the computer may not decide to activate the AC. And I mentioned most of them already. One is if your check engine light is on and your car is overheating, or maybe it's misfiring, then the computer will decide to not enable the AC. So if your check engine light is on and your AC is not working, you'll want to look into that check engine light a little deeper. One other thing you can do, if your car is low on refrigerant, you may have a small leak somewhere. The engine or the car will disable the AC to protect the compressor. So you can add Freon into this area here, that's the low side port, and see if that will allow your AC to come back on. So a couple things for you to look into. One note, and I may have mentioned this already, if you manually power on your AC compressor, then you can cause damage to the compressor or maybe the engine or some other parts of the car. So you don't want to manually engage that compressor unless you're absolutely sure that you have Freon in the system. And it's really just a quick troubleshooting step to see if the compressor is able to engage. It's by no means a permanent solution. So yeah, I hope that this information was helpful for you, a good starting point. Please do let me know if you have any questions or, more importantly, any advice about troubleshooting the air conditioning on your Impala.